Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Ferretti.
And I'm Jason Crandall. Welcome to Yoga-ish.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Andrea.
So, just to refresh everyone's memory, this is Yoga-ish. We do another podcast, Yoga Land, which is like our more technique driven, more yoga nerd, talking all about the practice.
The practice and the teaching and the techniques.
This is our more personal podcast where we just talk about life.
Yeah.
We talk about daughters, we talk about life, we talk about coffee. That's a very, very old SNL reference.
I know it is, actually.
That very few people will probably even remember.
I don't know.
Coffee talk.
I think we have a solid audience with a coffee talk background.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Yeah. We got a full range.
So anyway, we do talk about life. We talk about coffee. We talk about daughters. That's basically what
it kind of is.
Hilarious. We never realized.
I know.
All right. So let's talk about life and coffee and daughters. I want to just, by the time this comes out, we might be just at the beginning of May, but this is our first Yoga-ish in a while.
It is.
And we are still recording it in April.
It is.
So we're going to talk a bit about Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month right now, because that's what April is. And it's been a whopper.
April is or May is?
April is.
Okay.
Let's
give it the year.
Yeah, exactly. We would love that.
This would be a solid year.
It could be a solid year.
We need it.
It's been a whopper of an Autism Awareness Month for the autistic community. A whopper. But let's start with the positive.
Yes.
Which is the show Love on the Spectrum.
Can I just say we've been watching it since the beginning of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it first came out.
It was in Australia, remember?
Yeah, you're the one that first told me about it.
Okay, I don't even remember.
Yeah, and I don't remember how you had found out about it, but I was like a little bit reserved about it.
Yeah.
Right? It sounded like a little bit...
Like it might be sort of sad.
Yeah. Like it would, exactly. I didn't think, I was going to say like it might be exploitative, but I did not think that. I thought like it might be a little sad.
Yeah.
And I have found that this show, I'm not going to use an expletive, but it is expletive, awesome.
It is.
I love it.
It is.
There are very few shows that I have ever watched that like just touch me in a more immediate, sincere way and also entertain me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think we'll both talk about what we like about it. But for me, whether it's specifically how the show casts and the people that are involved, I'm not sure. But there's something about the way in which these people's lives just cut through all of the BS that is present in the human condition.
Yeah.
Right. To me, like it is just so immediate. Mm-hmm. And I love quirky, right? Like I'm quirky. I've always been drawn to quirky, and the genuineness and the quirkiness of the people involved are just, it's just heartwarming.
It's incredible. The producer really, or director, whatever he is, I think his name is Kian. He really has done an amazing job. And I agree with everything you said. And I want to just kind of address one thing, which is, and I'm glad you said it, because it's really important to just be honest about these things. Like the fear of watching it at first, right? The fear like, oh, it might be sad, or it kind of speaks to our fear of difference and our fear of seeing disability. And I have it too. It's so deeply embedded in most of us. I'm really working on it actively lately because I see it so much more now than I ever realized. I always think of myself as such an open, accepting person. But I think you and I over the past few years have seen some of our own neurodivergence. You're diagnosed ADHD. We're not neither of us are diagnosed anything else, but we like have strong suspicions. And what I've realized in that is how much like shame I grew up with associated with my differences. And that it was really reinforced in my family structure and in my community, that being like my differences, like I was too much. I was too sensitive. I was too sullen. I was too quiet. I was too much. I was too emotional. And so I have a lot of like internalized ableism around that. I really do, because I think I did that early on in Sophia's life. I think I was like, I just want her to have friends and I want her to like not have an anxiety attack, and I want her to, and it was never even like I would say that out loud. It was all internalized.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was all internalized.
Yeah.
And you and I have worked really, really hard to like open ourselves up to This has like been our whole life's work, really, is to understand the human condition.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now we kind of know why.
But also in part, Andrea, like, and I say this, like the reality is I have taught a lot of different people in a lot of different contexts. And for the most part, I've taught people who are mostly normative
Hmm.
and mostly well.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the that's been the primary demographic that I've worked with. And when you say internalized ableism, I think my internalized ableism in part is my own awkwardness with not knowing what to do
Sure.
in certain situations. And I have this memory, like as you're talking, it's like so random. Well, maybe it's not random, but I remember being a teenager and being at the mall. And I was walking out like the mall doors, like all the mall doors are the same. They're these like giant, heavy glass doors, right?
Yeah.
And I remember walking out and like seeing someone probably like 10 paces away who was blind, like coming through with a walking stick.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what to do,
Right.
right? I just like literally, and I did nothing.
Yeah.
I just froze, right? I didn't know, like, do I hold the door open? Do I
Would you
help them?
embarrass the
Right,
person
you know
if
what I
you
mean?
called it
Like,
out? Right.
and I think that, so I think that I've never really thought about it, but I think that at least in part, my ableism comes not from my desire to diminish or like other somebody.
Yeah.
It comes from me not feeling skillful or aware in how to manage someone else's divergence.
Sure.
And that's probably common, right?
Yeah.
That's probably common for
Yeah.
people that are this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. And I think what the show has done so well, what he's done so well is he's throughout the seasons of the show, there's been all different kinds of people.
Yeah.
And he just connects with them so well as a producer. And he just highlights our humanity.
Yeah.
And also, you and I are like total romantics.
Totally.
We watched The Bachelor and The Bachelorette for years just because we actually loved the part where the people fell in love.
Totally.
Like truly. And then we
Yeah.
got tired of it because it
Yeah,
got
yeah.
like too crazy.
Yeah.
But this particular season, all of the producers have done such a great job of finding good matches
Yeah.
for the stars.
Yeah.
So to watch these really fun people find their matches is just, we're like crying. It's just so romantic.
I think one more thing I want to say about the show, which is like, for me, another component of it is I have always loved skill-based shows. So like I really like Top Chef, I
Yeah.
like Project Runway, I like all these kind of like skill-based shows, right? Because I've always appreciated people that are really good at doing a thing. Like I just appreciate it. And I think that part of the interesting thing about watching Love on the Spectrum is that each one of these individuals is so brilliant in a particular way, right?
Say
There's
more about that. What give us an example.
Well, they're all so bright. Like Danny is so like she's so
driven in her animation.
She's so driven in her animation. She's so bright. She's so articulate. Connor in his like raw fact and knowledge of history
Mhm.
and his ability to like turn a historical phrase into a present moment,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And
Abby and her singing,
yeah, Abby and her singing.
her songwriting on this season. Oh my
So
gosh.
it's like, to me, it's like, sometimes there's a criticism of the show of like, it's a little infantilizing. To me, to me, I don't read it that way.
I don't either.
I read it as a lot of things, but part of read it as I see the like zone of genius in these different individuals.
Mhm, mhm.
And to me, that's always a really inspiring thing to witness.
Yeah.
Right. It's part of the beauty of, there's a lot of weird things about humanness,
Mhm.
right? But there's some amazing poignancy in humanness. And I feel like each one of these individuals has just these very poignant moments
Mhm.
and these very poignant qualities about themselves.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Yeah. I would add to that, well, first of all, I love that you brought that up because in part, what you're referring to is each of these person's special interests.
Yeah.
And for people on the autism spectrum, it's typical. It's very common that they might have a or several special interests, and their special interests might change over their lifetime or they might not. And people with autism might struggle to make small talk, or they might struggle to sort of just like go with the flow and fit in with the flow of a conversation. But if you ask them about a special interest, they will usually talk to you really excitedly. And so I think for people to know that is a good thing, that if you really do, if you are wondering like how to connect to someone and you want to include them in a conversation, to just in a really nice way say like, hey, what are you into? Like, what are you into lately? Or what's like your area of interest? Like they will then come out of their shell typically and be really excited. So I love that he
Yeah.
highlights that. I think the other thing that really came up for me in this season is it just really stood out to me. It was the characters of this season at the very least have extreme self-awareness of their strengths and their challenges. So Madison would be the example that came to mind for me. She was the one who loves to make bracelets and she loves to wear colorful clothing. She is so clear on who she is. I'm an extrovert. I like to be around people. I love to make my bracelets. I like to have friends over. I go to church. I like to have my Christmas tree up all year long because I love Christmas. And I want someone who can go out and do stuff with me. And there was one point before she met up with the first date, I think the first date she ever had in her life, where she said, I get really, really upset when people call me Maddie.
Mm.
I actually struggle with my emotional regulation when that happens. Now, what neurotypical person do you know that can identify their emotional regulation triggers? I don't know very many of them.
Me neither.
Okay. But because when you experience autism, you often have trouble with dysregulation, nervous system, sensory overwhelm, emotional overwhelm. A person who's maybe been through some therapies or just has learned about themselves over the years actually knows that about
Yeah,
themselves.
for sure.
So when these people go on dates, they know what's a yes and they know what's a no. She went out on a date with the first guy and he really struggled with the restaurant and the sensory, and he put his headphones on, he put his head down, and she was very kind to him. She understood that he was struggling, but she just said, I just need someone who can go out to restaurants and enjoy themselves. Like, this is just not going to work. And like, that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
If I had known when I was dating, like, thank God I met you and I found you, and it took a really long time and a lot of like trial and error. But like, if I had known what I actually needed, I don't know. I think it would have saved me so many years of like suffering and heartbreak.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I loved it.
Yep. Me
Loved
too.
him.
Me too.
You're the milk to my Chardonnay.
I don't remember how that one goes.
That's from Abby's song.
Yeah.
That's from Abby's song to
Okay.
David. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next on my little autism awareness agenda would be, I was just sort of thinking about this month, and I was thinking about what I wish people knew about autism. And it's obviously such a huge topic. And there's an expression like, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism, because there are core characteristics, but the way that they manifest in each person is so different. And so I would say the thing that I have learned that I was not aware of is that we think of it as a spectrum from like mild to moderate to severe. And there are actually levels when you get diagnosed of like level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3 being needing the most support.
Yeah, so those levels are in reference to the level of support
needs
required.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I think what I've learned over the years from like following autistic adults and families is that you can also think of it as like in my mind, it's a pie chart, because that's the easiest way to describe it. It's more 3D than that. But anyway, think of it, let's just for a moment, think of it as a pie chart, okay? So someone might have like very low support needs in a certain area. Like let's say someone is an electrical engineer and they go to their job every day and they're just like really good at it. And they have very low impairment. They have very low support needs. But let's say they have really high sensory issues. So they might have very high support needs when it comes to sensory. They might not be able to go to the grocery store by themselves. They might need to order their food delivered. They might not be able to go to a restaurant. So there's so many nuances to this, but it's like even a person with mild, quote unquote, mild support needs, there might be areas where they really need a lot of support. And because of that, I think it can be kind of an invisible disability in a lot of ways. And so my wish for people is just to know that, to just be compassionate about
Yeah.
that. And if someone says like, I can't go to that restaurant, they're not trying to be difficult. Or, they're not trying to be a pain. They're not trying to be too much, too sensitive to this. It's just the truth for them.
So not to like get overly complicated with like throwing like more neurodivergence scenarios in. But I think something that is also helpful to reflect on, like along these lines, is there's a parallel with people with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is if you only ever knew me as a yoga teacher, if you only ever were in my trainings, well, maybe if you're in my trainings, maybe that's different because you get to know me pretty well,
Well,
especially in our group
very
calls.
direct and open.
Yeah. Especially in our group calls, like we just have fun and so forth. So you see a whole nother dimension of me. But if you were to only really see me in my job, I'm focused, I'm organized, I'm consistent, I'm present,
You're
I'm
on
good at my
time.
job,
Yeah.
I'm on time,
Mm-hmm.
mostly. And so in that environment,
Yes.
I excel.
Yes.
And I would never be perceived by someone else, nor would I perceive myself through that environment as having ADHD. Because that's an environment that I can lock in. That's an environment where I have hyperfocus, right? But if you were to see me most any day, most any other time of the day, looking for my phone, scrolling through my notes, trying to figure out like, wait, what am I supposed to do next?
Trying to pay a bill.
Trying to pay a bill.
Trying to fill out a form.
All
Those
right,
are really
let's,
no. I'm just saying those are just really challenging things for you.
I literally so it's like when I fill out a form, there's all these like okay, so there's that funny. I've seen it done by a few different people on Instagram. There's a funny reel of someone with ADHD listening to instructions and like getting them all wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They get ahead of the instructions.
Yeah.
Like, pick up the scissor. Now pick up the paper. And then the person starts cutting the paper.
Right. And they're like, do not cut the paper. And we're like, oh,
I
right?
love that one.
And so I think that this is where, all these things are on a spectrum and they're all complicated, and humanness is complicated and weird, right? But I think that something to understand is that someone that thrives in one space, that may not be representative of the totality of who they are, right? And so and the reason this is important is like, if I was judged, right? If someone judged me, if someone thought that they knew the totality of me because they take my classes and then I don't respond to their email, they might think, well, what a jerk. He's not responding to my email.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because in that environment, they might be like, oh, well, he's so together. And it's like, oh no. This is the real me, but this is the environment in which I excel.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you were saying, you might be an electrical engineer. You might be extremely high functioning. You might be the best person at your job ever. But in many other environments, you may have pretty significant impairments.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to have people in San Francisco say to me, like, I said hi to your husband. He didn't even say hi to me.
Like, I didn't even know they were there.
And I was like, he doesn't, it's not like people take things so personally. But I knew that it was literally like you were in your own world.
Totally in my own
You
world.
actually have really poor eyesight. No,
It's
seriously, I'm
right.
just
No,
saying.
I
I
know, I
mean,
know.
I'm not,
I
you keep
know.
acting like I'm making fun of you. I'm not
No, I
making
know, I
fun
know.
of you.
I know you're not making fun of me.
It's just the truth. Like, and people don't understand other people's impairments.
So there's this other phrase, right? This is also reminding me of, which is 2E, twice exceptional,
Yeah.
right? And to me, this is another really interesting lens, um, in the way my mind sees it as there is something in which you are exceptional at,
Hmm.
and there is also something significant in which you have an exceptional impairment,
Right.
right?
Usually it's measurable in a psychoeducational evaluation.
Yes,
So
yes,
usually it's like someone will have a spiky profile where let's say their verbal skills are like in the 90th percentile and their, reasoning or their math or their whatever else is in like the 20th
yes,
percentile.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I think that's just another kind of lens when we step back, is that when we see someone in an environment, we can't make any assumption that the way they are in that environment translates to all these other environments,
Hmm.
right? And it could also go the
The other
opposite way,
way.
right? It could seem like someone is a mess,
Hmm.
an absolute mess. But then you realize, well, yeah, they're a mess in that element of their life.
Hmm.
But in these other elements, they have these exceptional standout qualities,
Hmm.
right?
It's actually really important for like people and systems to know this because, for example, and on a very practical level, I notice certain impairments like in a doctor's office environment, right? Without getting too personal, like the environment is incredibly important for a person who has any neurodivergence, and I think that's kind of what you're stating. And so,
I mean the environment, but also the task.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but usually, anyway, I would say more stressful tasks can be done in the right environment
Mm, okay.
more
I understand.
easily, right? Like, so for Sophia, school was not the right environment for
No.
her. And now she's home and we're seeing like all this learning happen. And it's like, oh my God, this is what people said would happen. We didn't really believe them. And thank God it's happening. So environment is huge. And I would say like from a systems standpoint and just an overall, um, awareness standpoint, I wish more professionals knew that because like we went to the doctor earlier this week and it's like, I see her just unable to actually speak in that environment.
Yeah.
It's so stressful to
Yeah.
her being asked questions, being in that environment, being all these tests happening, all these noises, like she loses her ability to speak.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like asking and being like, kind of like, oh, is she being a sullen teenager?
No, it's a
like,
nervous system dysregulation.
and like it's on her chart what's happened. Like, why is this not actually being
Yeah.
believed?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've seen people talk about when I
Yeah.
go to the doctor, I have a letter that I have written that I hand to the doctor that's like, I might not be, especially if you start asking me to do tests, I might not be able to respond.
Mm.
I do not give you my consent to do these tests on me right now. Right. So anyway, I think these things, like I love that you brought up the environment because that was the other thing I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about is that. And so if you see someone who is like, let's say you're in a social environment and someone is super awkward, you'll see it with groups of parents, like where one parent is just like over on a rock looking at their phone while everyone else is talking. And you might think like, oh, they're just not being friendly or, oh, they're strange or something. If you care enough, you could always try to talk to that person one-on-one and like
Yeah.
see if they want to engage in that way. And they might not want to, but it might go a really long way toward making them feel included and feeling better about interacting.
I feel like maybe this is a soft bridge towards our current administration without going too deep and too hard.
Okay.
Um, I think for anyone that's interested, there is a lot of pushback for good against RFK,
Yeah.
especially in his view of autism
Yeah.
and in clearly what he's attempting to predetermine as certain outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. But here's I'm gonna keep it relatively simple because this isn't my I'm not afraid of this conversation, but this isn't like my wheelhouse. Like this isn't where I'm not a specialist in politics, right? But what I kind of what part of the thing that upsets me is I've listened to RFK. I've actually listened to RFK for years. I've listened to RFK for years, and especially this last year. And from the way he talks about autism, and from the way autistic people talk about autism, it's as if he's never attempted to try to understand autism or autistic people. That there seems to be actually, for someone that pretends to be wanting to help, there seems to be an unfathomable disconnect between the people that he wants to so-called help and the the people. It's a very, very disconnected narrative. And again, like that I don't like I don't want to go I don't want to say more down this road because again, like I feel like I'm going to start saying things I don't necessarily know about, but just the clear way in which his narrative, I've never seen someone ever. I've never seen an autistic person or community or organization speak about the experience of autism in the way that he does,
No.
right?
I will say something because there
0%.
is sort of some, I will speak to it a little bit more because
Okay.
I've been following it a little bit more closely. But okay. So just to kind of clarify, RFK Jr. came out and made a statement that autism is a tragedy for families, that many people will never pay taxes, they'll never write a poem, they'll never play baseball, they'll never toilet on their own. Okay. And that he is going to, by September, find the cause of autism. So, understandably, like you said, there's been a lot of upset in the community. To just kind of present a little bit of a counterpoint to what you said,
Sure.
there are parents that I have, and some of them I follow, who have children who are higher support needs.
Sure.
And some of them have said is, no one wants to hear it, but RFK said the quiet part out loud, which is that for some families, they do want to find the cause because their children are suffering so
Understood.
much.
Of course.
Totally understandable.
Absolutely.
Like 100%. Like
Absolutely.
we're not even a high support needs family. And yet there are many health conditions associated with the inflammation, with the gut dysbiosis, with nervous system dysregulation. It affects the entire system, neuroinflammation. I mean, so it affects your biology, right? And so there are families that are coming forward and saying, oh, it's great that you're a PhD, you're autistic and you're a PhD and you can do this, that, and the other, but my kid might never be able to toilet on their own and is very frustrated daily and has violent outbursts. And I just want my kid to feel better in their skin.
Sure. Of course.
So I have chills. And some of those parents have said we're at war with each other right now in the autism community. I wish that people didn't feel that way. I wish that people didn't feel that we were at war with each other, because I would say anybody who, has an experience with autism would hope that we could improve outcomes and improve the experience of life and improve the experience of being in your body. However, I think the issue for me is, and I'm willing to say that I might be wrong, but the issue for me is that I don't trust him because of the way he speaks about it, because it's very monolithic, because he acts as though no one has been trying to figure these things out for years, which we have. He acts as though no one has studied vaccines, which we have. He acts as though he's going to discover this by September. He has a vested interest in supplement companies. There is money involved. And so many of us, myself included, I'll just, believe that he is basically creating an outcome, like you said, and he's hiring a person who, according to the New York Times, is not even a licensed, I think he's not even a licensed doctor at this point to head up the study. He's trying to create a predetermined outcome so that more people are afraid to get vaccinated. And importantly, more people are afraid to get diagnosed, right?
Mhm.
How sad is that? How sad and what a setback that is for the autism community when I feel like it's really only been in the past 5 years that the autism community has really come forward and been like, yo, this is how it is for us, and we deserve to be here. And if you think that autism is a new thing, talk to me about your grandpa who ate the same exact thing for lunch every single day of his life, wore the same socks. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
there's so much denial about neurodivergence in our species as it
Yeah.
is to demonize it and to speak about it like it's an unnatural, completely unnatural, fabricated thing is really dangerous.
Yes.
I don't know. Have I
Yeah.
said too much?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I think, to some degree, I mean, I'll just let our community know straight up. It's like part of the reason, sorry,
I'm glad you're laughing.
part of the reason that you and I in this environment or in our environment, part of the reason that you and I, me even more so, are less public in our political statements is because our neurodiversity creates a reality that I can't take the hate.
Yeah,
I can't take it.
we're so sensitive. Like we get knocked out for days
I can't take it.
by like 3 negative comments.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like I get plenty in social media, just like weird stuff, crazy stuff that's like not even related to what I say, but I'll still get attacked about things like that. I've not even said anything about X, Y, or Z, and someone will like get in my feed about it. So taking a statement that in a more polarized environment is for me, if I hesitate to do it, if I cop out, it's in part because I actually don't have the capacity to go to war with my comment feed. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a person, you're a person. And if we want to talk about complexity and family demands, we have a lot of complexity and a lot of family demands.
Yeah.
So, and I am the parent to one person. I'm not the parent to a comment feed who is upset for me about my take,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where I tend to kind of lean into where my expertise is, and then behind closed doors and how I vote and how I advocate for, that's
Yeah.
that's more of where I will take that.
Yeah, I think I decided to talk about this on today because I know that there are a lot of moms who listen to me, maybe some dads too, I don't know, who have neurodivergent kids.
Yeah.
And I want to create, like, I know that anybody online, many people online have supported me unknowingly.
Yes.
So if I
Yes.
can provide any support, any feelings of safety, any feelings of optimism, any feelings of inclusivity and acceptance and allyship, that's what I'm here for.
100%.
So with that in mind,
Can I say one more
Yeah.
thing? Can I remind everybody of our complaints department?
oh yeah, tell them where
Yeah.
to send
So
it.
so anyone, if you have any complaints about our perspective on
Right.
anything,
Mhm.
whether it's RFK or anything else, you can go ahead and contact our complaints department.
Right.
I'm just gonna put it here. It's United Cares at unitedairlines.com.
I
That's
thought it
it.
was
So
Spirit Cares.
no,
No,
we're working
we're
with
back to
United
United again.
We're
Okay.
working with United again.
Okay,
So
excellent.
United Cares
Excellent.
at unitedairlines.com.
Yep.
Now, if you want to say we love you, you can comment in the feed below,
Right.
or thanks, interesting opinion, you can put in below. But any Maha loving RFK fanatic,
Yeah.
just reach out to United. I'm sure they're there for you and they want to help you. They'll be
Yes.
there for you.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yes.
good. I was gonna switch topics, but you
I
can.
think it's time to switch topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we could talk a little bit. It's the end of the school year.
It is the end of the school year.
It's the end of the school year. And so
I think I'm finally
solidarity,
going to get through the 11th grade.
solidarity to the parents out there.
Solidarity and sympathy. A lot of parents lose their mind.
It's a hard time of year.
Summer's a long time.
Well, also like
You
the
start, by the way, coming undone about summer right after winter.
okay, hello. Do I need to tell you why?
No, you do not.
I'm going to tell you why
Okay.
because you brought it up.
All right.
Moms, everyone out there is going to click the like button if you relate to this comment.
Boo.
Moms in February have to start registering for camps. There was a time when
In San
I
Francisco.
went to an office, okay? Or when you were away for weeks at a time, when I needed to make sure there was something to do. There was no pool, there were no places to ride bikes. No. You let me finish.
Okay.
It started in February. My friends and I would be emailing, oh my God, it's March. Like I have nothing to do. Things were already sold out in San Francisco. It's a little better here and it's a little less stressful because she's older now.
Yeah.
But we're in almost May, buddy.
I love you. Thanks for being such a
Wish
perfect.
you did.
Thanks for being such a perfect wife and mother.
That's our response to each other, by the way, when one says I love you. Wish you did.
Wish you did.
Wish you did.
Yeah.
Okay. But should we, I mean, have we been too self-indulgent or should we talk about
This is yoga-ish. What do you want to talk about? What to do with the head of the thigh bone and triangle pose?
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about our first end of year homeschool year.
Okay.
And I think like if I could just cut to the chase here, what I want to say to parents out there who are struggling with the school system, their child is really suffering, their child is really traumatized by school, their child is just, it's not working out, you've done everything you can. I want to be one more little light out there, like one little lighthouse in the harbor saying it can work out to homeschool. We're really lucky. We live in the state of California where if you file a private homeschool affidavit, you can pretty much do what you need to do. And she's in middle school, so we're not like getting ready for college or anything. So that has taken a lot of pressure off of us. But one of the things that I remember hearing from parents over the years and reading, there's a woman named Naomi Fisher. She's in the UK who's written a few books about self-directed learning. She's a psychologist, early childhood development expert. She, I believe, has autistic kids. And her books were like my Bible at the beginning of the year. And it was all about self-directed learning, which is sometimes called unschooling, which I can't really bear to call it that because it feels way too unstructured for me. But self-directed learning is so we've done for this year a combination of some structure where she has a tutor for a couple subjects and you and I have created structure in other subjects, but also like on days when it's just not happening or on days when we do have a bunch of doctor's appointments or we do have a really delicate nervous system, we don't have that pressure to kind of deliver and we've let her be her. And I would say like over the past few weeks, we've had some really exciting developments.
Totally.
Do you want to talk about what they are?
You can talk about them. I blabber the whole time. Every other yoga land,
You're the blabbermouth. Okay.
I'm the blabbermouth.
So I think before we homeschooled her, I don't think we ever really saw much academic interest at all.
No.
And there's always this like stereotype of autistic kids or even ADHD kids. Oh, like when they finally get on a subject they love, they hyper focus. Like we never saw that. I was like, oh my God, is my child going to be, I don't know, like working at 7-Eleven? Not that there's anything wrong with this, but we never saw any like spark. Never saw any spark. None. Zero. And there is so much spark now.
Yeah.
There is so much spark. Like recently, a couple weeks ago, started talking about linguistics and that she was interested in the way language formed and she was interested in languages. And she just found a course on YouTube through PBS. So it's like an actual good course about linguistics. And she's been working her way through that and taking copious notes with her little highlighter.
She's been structuring notes in a way that's like, I don't know where this comes from.
It's amazing. And I was always worried that at school she would never take notes.
No.
And if she had to take notes, she would throw her notebook across the room because it made her so angry. Does that sound familiar? So taking notes, wanting to do linguistics. Right now she's really interested in space. The other day she told me she was really mad that she's not good at math because it means she can never work at NASA. Didn't even know she knew like anything about. She is, by the way, really not good at math, so that's never gonna happen. We're not gonna, yeah.
There's probably something at NASA that isn't mathematics focused. Like she could,
You like
I don't know,
what?
in the office.
Yeah, you do the photocopying. I don't
I don't know.
know.
She'd
What
be a
else?
spokesmodel for NASA.
She's she is gorgeous.
Yeah. She'd be a spokesmodel.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
she would love that.
Yeah.
Standing up in front of people, having them look at her.
Yeah, that's true.
What was her other thing she wanted? Oh, she's starting Italian lessons after years of sending her to an Italian school where she never wanted to speak the language. She now wants to learn the language. That's amazing. And then there was one other thing. There was one other area of interest. I
The
think,
map thing.
well, she loves maps. She loves a good map.
Yeah.
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 So yeah,
This kid did not fall far from the tree. FYI.
I mean, she's like 99% you.
At least 99% me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what parts of her are me. Her hair, I guess, but she's got
Yeah.
curly hair.
Yeah. She's got your eyes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got my sense of humor.
Totally.
Good sense of humor.
Well, I think you and I have a very similar sense of humor. Actually, let's close on this.
Okay, we're gonna talk about our latest comedy show.
Yeah.
Aren't
So
we?
so we have been on a Tim Robinson bender.
So I think last yoga-ish we talked about Detroiters.
Detroiters,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, so one of the stars of the Detroiters, Tim Robinson, is just
So weird.
so weird, and I think so funny.
I think
And
it's so funny too.
and like any sketch comedy, it's really hit and miss.
So what's the show
So
called
there's
that we're
this-
watching?
I think you should leave.
I think you should leave on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah. And it's his show.
wild.
And there's sketch comedy. And
So
some
odd.
of it is unwatchable.
We have to
I
forward
would say
it.
this. I would say for many people, all of it would be unwatchable.
Yeah.
But for us, I mean, I would honestly say that you and I watching the show go back and forth between it is like, because the episodes are short. The episodes are like 15 to 17 minutes.
Mhm.
And there's like, there
Five
are
sketches,
yeah,
four or
like-
five
yeah.
sketches in
and
each
there's
episode.
at least two that are in you and I's opinion, like not watchable. Like we don't connect to it.
Yeah, we just fast forward through it.
But I would say that at least two episodes of
Two
two
sketches.
sketches within every episode has us laughing
Like peeing in our pants.
harder than we have laughed in years. Right. And so, yeah, that's
Anyone
been
out there who's watched the one that literally we were like almost choking to death
I don't know
was the guy. It's a funeral.
yeah.
And they're like,
The-
we have a substitute organ player today. And it's like a famous guy who's been in Best in Show. You recognize him.
Yeah.
I think I had a crumb on my mouth the entire time. And then he starts to play the organ and he's like, he plays it kind of
It's
like a
old
clown.
Yeah.
and he's like throwing crashing plates on the ground.
Yeah.
We died. And then like at the end of the skit, the guy says, this next song is a really somber one. So just be prepared. And it's like even more off the wall. So yeah, I mean, the other skit that really got us the other day was when Tim Robinson, they called a meeting during lunch and he was
Yes.
really, really mad because you're not allowed to have a meeting during lunch and just call off lunch. So he went into the meeting with a hot dog hidden in
He
his
snuck
sleeve.
a hot dog in
And
his sleeve.
he's like, as they're talking, he's, nodding his head, but he's secretly munching on the hot dog. And then he chokes on the hot dog. But I think the reason that show kind of blows my mind is because I think I am one of the weirdest people internally, like humor wise, that I know. I love
Well,
like
you're sitting
zany,
across from someone. Yeah.
I love zany. I love way weirder humor than you
No,
like.
no, you don't. No, wait.
You don't like
wait.
Maria Bamford.
Stop. Here's the difference. I love the weird for sure, but like I love weird, awkward, uncomfortable.
Mm.
You like weird / physical.
Zany.
Zany.
I like zany.
Pratfally.
Well, like, okay, Maria Bamford, I might make you watch her again because Maria Bamford is basically the female Tim Robinson.
Okay.
She's just zany. It's all like pulling faces and weird, like physical. Like he's always just like, "Hey, what do you think about that?" I mean, he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so much
Yeah.
about his
It is
physical
a lot about his face.
presence,
Yeah.
you know. And so I watch him, and I'm like, "Wow, someone weirder than me like grew up and brought this to the world unapologetically, and people are watching it, and I
Yeah.
love it, and I also kind of marvel at it."
I also want to say in conclusion,
Yes.
I think we're going to have very little crossover in our community to people who actually have either A, watched this show and B, enjoyed it.
Well, we're going to see because when we talked about Detroiters, we had a lot of people who responded.
That's true.
So I'm going to say, okay, have you watched, what is it called again? I Think You Should Leave.
I think you should leave.
Or have you watched Lady Dynamite years ago on, which was
Okay,
Maria
so
Bamford's
those are our
Netflix
CTA.
show.
Those are our calls to action.
Have you watched?
Okay, here's the CTA. Join my training now. Here's another CTA. Let us know if you've ever watched
Lady Dynamite or I Think You Should Leave.
I think you should leave.
Specifically the episode with the funeral.
Those are the CTAs.
Those
I
are
hate
those-
that phrase.
Remember, so Sophia has this thing lately. We should like record her and put it on the end of an episode where she does like people's YouTube outros.
Yes.
She's like, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and blah, 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 blah. And she does
that when she's leaving.
Yeah,
when
she does it when
walking
she's
through
leaving the
door.
room.
Yeah.
And she has like the exact dialogue
She's really good.
and voice.
I actually asked her the other day, we should stop, but I asked her the other day, I was like, I know this is going to come across as really random, but do you have any interest in acting? And she's like, no.
No, I knew that. I wish she did.
I know. I was just had this moment where I was like, I wonder if, like we can have latent desires or changes of heart.
Changing, I know.
I thought maybe that would come out.
There's so many wacky neurodivergence in theater groups. She would find her people, but
big time.
you gotta want to be on, you gotta want people to like watch you being funny, and she doesn't want people to watch her yet. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
All right. Well, smash that like button, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.